What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Chargers franchise, where we will be recapping Season 3 of this series, and we'll be going through all the different things that our team has been through. I went through player progression already, so as you can see, some of our players have higher overalls than they did before. Davante Adams is up to a 90 with that +2 confidence boost. Hunter Henry up to a 92 overall, and a couple of offensive linemen up higher. I keep meaning to switch to Shell and Slauson, or Deshaun Snell, excuse me, not Shell. Deshaun Snell and Matt Slauson. I've been playing them in reverse positions, but it hasn't really worked out the way I expected it to. We'll move Matt Slauson back inside before our playoff game, as my PlayStation is being super loud for no reason. But take a look at the standings. I showed a little bit of this last episode, but we'll go division by division and conference by conference to show the different playoff matchups. So the Chargers, Bengals are going to have first round byes in the AFC. Patriots are taking on the Steelers. The Jaguars will be taking on the Raiders in the first round. And the Patriots have a huge injury, and Jason Watt, their quarterback, will be missing a lot of time down the stretch. I think he's out the entire playoffs, actually. We'll take a look at that in a moment, if I remember anyway. And then Raiders, Steelers at the bottom, yeah, as I said. NFC, the Seahawks, Cowboys have first-round byes. The Vikings are going to be taking on the Cardinals. Saints taking on the Eagles. So very close between these teams right here. And it was a close wild card race, it looks like. There were 4 teams that were 8-8. 2 teams that were 7-9, and the NFC didn't really have very many bad teams. We'll go to the bottom of the AFC, as not a lot of teams really contending for very much. The Chiefs actually finished the season 7-9. I thought they were like 4-11 going into the last game, but they must have been 6-9. Bills, Texans, Titans, Dolphins, Jets, Ravens, and Broncos. It's quite the fall for the Texans and the Jets. The Texans and the Jets were division winners last year, and this year they're going to be watching from their couches. So, and then we'll just quickly run through each division. You can pause to see your favorite division. I know it's not the AFC South, so skip through these pretty quickly. And then we can move on to our individual team stats, and then we'll do awards and league rankings and all that, and we'll try to keep this a little shorter than before. So, Philip Rivers, I believe, led the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns. Had an amazing season. 4,500 yards, 38 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions, 70% completion percentage, 286 yards per game, and 113 passer rating. So let's see where that stacks up with the best seasons of his career. By passer rating, we'll look, and it's his highest passer rating by a considerable margin. It's almost 8 higher than 2008. In 2013, which was an incredible year, I remember watching him this year, or that like in 2013, and he was pretty great. But, yeah, a very, very good quarterback for a majority of his career. Only had a couple of bad seasons here. Well, even these seasons were above average. This 2007 season was a little rough, but the rest of his career has been pretty excellent. And in his 14th year, we'll see if he can finally win that elusive Super Bowl. All right. Oh, I backed out of that completely. That was not what I wanted to do. Rushing. Kind of a rough year, as you can see. Nobody really had very much success, but Melvin Gordon did pretty well when he did play. Had a few good games here and there. Prosise showed promise. I wouldn't really rely on him very much going forward. Maybe we'll see if the line plays much better going forward, because I thought a lot of the reason that we didn't have a great running game was because the line played like garbage for quite a lot, like in terms of run blocking. And I think Slauson had a really bad year, honestly. And Eric Lair was pretty good in his first season, but wasn't the greatest in run blocking. Not as good as King Dunlap was, anyway. Receiving-wise, as I've already established, Keenan Allen was on pace for an amazing season until he got hurt and missed half the year. He will be back for the playoffs, along with DeAndre McKee and Casey Hayward. Travis Benjamin is out for at least another week. We probably won't be playing him very much when he does come back, though, just because of the emergence of Craig Brink in that role. And with everybody back healthy, we shouldn't really need him. Davante Adams had an incredible year as a free agent signing, probably the best year of his career, 1,300 yards and averaged 81 yards per game. Really picked things up after Keenan Allen went out. We'll just look at Davante Adams' game log this year. He was pretty much a model of consistency as far as I can remember, as his lowest receiving total in a game was 34 yards, and after that 47. But this guy was, 5 catches, 54, 4 catches, 54, 4 catches, 56, at least every week. And he had a couple of big games this year. 153 yards, 2 touchdowns, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns, 129 yards, 106, 100, 97. A lot of big games, but he was really just consistent. He came to play pretty much every game, and I'm really happy with that contract. It's honestly a bargain of a contract. Hunter Henry having a pretty good year, probably the best year of his career, and if you take a look at the game-by-game stats for him, a lot of these games came toward the end of the season. He had a lot of games early on. See, 1 for 10, 2 for 10, 2 for 13, 2 for 19, 3 for 25, 5 for 28. Not a lot of big games for Hunter Henry, but I would say out of these 5 games at the bottom, at least 3 or 4 of them were at the end of the season. I know these 2 games were within the last 4 weeks of the season, because this was the Seahawks game, or the last 2 weeks of the season, actually. Because this is the Seahawks game, I'm pretty sure, and this is the Raiders game. And this is actually a game we played as well, so one of these is Cincinnati. So, very hot to end the year. Very, very hot to end the year. Very big receiving threat. Hopefully he can continue to develop going forward. I'm pretty sure he's only like 23 at this point. Yeah, he's only 23. And this is still a young receiving core relatively. Like, Devontae Adams is only 25. Hunter Henry was just said was 23. Keenan Allen is 26. So he's like the elder statesman of the group almost. Craig Brake is 24. Well, actually, Travis Benjamin would be our oldest receiver. He's 28, but... Well, actually, Vincent Jackson's even older than him, so... But he didn't play very much this year. I wanted to use him a little bit more creatively, but we just never really pulled out twin tight end sets, honestly. The 3 receiver set was really the most dangerous for us, so... Alright, blocking-wise, Deshaun Snell allowed 7 sacks. I think that's slightly better than his first year, but definitely still needs to improve in pass blocking. Was a pretty decent run blocker this year. I think his ratings are a little higher than his actual performance, but he's been pretty good. Not great, I wouldn't say, but been pretty good. He's definitely been outshined by other members of this offensive line. Matt Slauson allowed 6 sacks, and I think he really took a step back in his play this year. I think that declining strength really played a part in it. He was still pretty decent, but definitely could have gotten more production out of that right guard spot, I feel. Parker Donahue played excellent this season. He is up to a 97 pass block. It's +2 to 99 right now because he's playing with high confidence. But he's been a pretty great pick for that number 3. I think it was number 3 pick. He's only 23 too, so he can still conceivably get much better. Heath Vale played a little bit in the place of Matt Slauson, and that experience got him quite a bit of progression. He went from like a 72 all the way up to an 80 when we upgraded some of his blocking and awareness ratings. So he could potentially be that replacement at right guard going forward. We'll see how that works out. Josh Sitton had another excellent season in pass blocking. Wasn't the greatest in run blocking, but like that's pretty much the story of our team. Not great at run blocking this year. Not a great year in run blocking. But Eric Lair was a great story this year. Started at center, which was probably the weakest spot on our offensive line last year, and he played amazingly. He's already up to 87 in all of his blocking categories, as well as 92 strength. So looking for big things for him going forward. And that draft class was just an absolute steal, like in that first year. We got Parker Donahue, Deshaun Snell, and Eric Lair. Those are 3 cornerstones of our offensive line for several years in the same draft, as well as many other players. So move on to defense now, and we'll start with Denzel Perryman, who I think would in a normal year have been our defensive MVP. He's played pretty well this season, and he's improved every year of his career up to this point. So yeah, you can look at the year he had. And I thought his last year was pretty good, but he was great this year. You saw a couple big interceptions from him, and he was really good in pass coverage this year. I was actually kind of surprised by the year he had in pass coverage, and I think we still have a little bit of XP to spend for him, maybe not. But anyway, Kevin Pierre-Louis, I was not really happy with his performance down the stretch. He actually got benched a couple of times in the end of the season, and he's a good speed linebacker, a good athlete, decent tackler, but his lack of utility is really not the greatest. Like he also has a really bad toughness rating apparently, which I didn't realize till just now. He was decent in coverage. He was actually pretty good against the run, surprisingly. I think he had 8 tackles for a loss. So, but I would say our defensive MVP this year was Joey Bosa, who played end and inside. He played defensive tackle and left end in different packages, and he's a stud at this point. He's up to superstar development now. And he has 96 finesse moves and 92 power moves, 87 block shedding. He's good against the run and against the pass. And this dude had 17 tackles for a loss and 19.5 sacks this year. And really the switch to a 4-3 defense actually kind of benefited our entire team, because if you take a look down here, Melvin Ingram had 15 sacks this season. He hasn't been in double digits this entire franchise. If you take a look, he was in double digits that year. He had 9.5 year one, and then he had 7.5 year two. And I actually talked last season about how he might not last the entire length of his contract extension with the team if we could get another pass rusher who had, developmental ability. But he was amazing this year, I thought. And he was actually really good against the run, too. He had 12 tackles for a loss overall. Let's talk about some other guys. Clinton Dix was great in his first year. I don't know if he was necessarily the best. I don't think our coverage was the greatest, especially in the second half. But I think a lot of that was losing Casey Hayward. And as good as Antoine Benford is, I don't think Jonathan Joseph played particularly well this season. So losing Casey Hayward, along with the kind of underwhelming performance I thought from Jonathan Joseph, along with our safety play, our safety didn't have an interception at all, but we were great against the run. Our safeties were amazing against the run, especially Dondre McKee. It was very, very noticeable with Dondre McKee, as he was amazing safety against the run, and Clinton Dix was really good too. But yeah, great years out of our safeties. And Dondre McKee would have had like 125 tackles probably if he played all season. He missed like 4.5 games to end the year, so he definitely could have had all of these numbers be much higher. So, and he was actually had a sack on the year too. He was pretty good in coverage actually. I didn't realize, but yeah, Jonathan Joseph, I thought he was decent. I definitely don't really think we're playing the right system to capitalize on all of his strengths. He's still a great cover corner though. His press isn't the greatest, but we've been trying to play a little bit off zone and off man more when we were running our different coverages. We play a lot of zone anyway, so it's already a little bit of a misuse of Jonathan Joseph, but still a guy who could be pretty good in the playoffs for us. He could be a useful piece, even with Casey Hayward back. And Antoine Benford played pretty well down the stretch. We'll try and rotate our corners in a little bit more depending on what kind of coverage we're playing. Jason Verrett, I thought he really struggled for parts of this year in the first year of his big contract extension. We'll take a look at that really quickly. We'll go to contract. Yeah, this is year one of his 4-year extension. He makes $14 million in the last year of that, so hopefully he can kind of turn things around. I thought he struggled for a lot of the season, but at the same time, he was pretty good overall, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. It was really probably just that he was playing poor compared to where he's been in the past. He's played really well in this franchise for the first 2 seasons, even though he got hurt last year. But I thought he struggled, but overall probably had a really good year. He had 12 pass deflections, so obviously, he was doing something right. But Casey Hayward, a little bit of a down year. This is probably his last year with the team. He's demanding like $7 million a year, so probably not going to happen for a 85 or 83 overall corner with only 87 speed, who's probably not going to age very well. Not really something I'm looking forward to, or not really something I'm looking to commit to long term, but hopefully we can make the most of his last year. And Antoine Benford played pretty well. Ratings are getting up there. Show you guys really quick. Corey Liuget played pretty well this year. A little bit of a different role than he's had in the past. As you can see in the past seasons of this franchise, I guess he didn't really play the greatest in 2016 either. He had similar numbers, just more sacks. But last year, he definitely had a career type of season, maybe minus the sack totals. He had his career high in tackles and tackles for a loss. He's been really good at stuffing the run, but hasn't really. And he offered a little bit as a pass rusher in the first year, but changing his role a little bit as he ages, and that contract is still a little bit of a concern. As you can see right here, we'll take a look at his contract really quick. Makes $10 million next year, and then $12.5 million in the last year of that deal. So we'll see how that contract goes as he ages. We'll see how his skill set looks. Antoine Benford, as I said, already played pretty well. Dalton Dansby is a left outside linebacker. Only plays against the run, but he was pretty excellent in that role. He had 50 tackles. 10 tackles for a loss and a sack. Dominique Bernard, a guy we definitely need to give more playing time going forward. I may incorporate him into some of our nickel packages. I've been playing a lot of Russell Newkirk because even though he had like 2 of those sacks in the same game, he's been pretty good at forcing pressures. And we don't play him very much anyway, but Maybe we can get Dominique Bernard into more of those passing situations because he should be in the prime of his career at this point. He's only an 83 overall, but he's 25 years old already, and we drafted him in the second round. He's, as you can see, very good against the run, good tackling, good block shed, decent power moves. We'll see if we can get him on the field a little bit more. He actually has decent finesse moves for a defensive tackle as well. Terrence Mitchell played in the absence of Dondre McKee. He played a little bit as our third safety as well, and definitely in line with his year one totals. He had, I didn't realize he had an interception in year one. Why does he not have an interception this year? He had an interception in a game. Yeah, he has interception yards even. I didn't even realize he had an interception in year one. I thought he just hadn't had one as a Charger, but okay, so that makes what I said earlier invalid. But pretty decent year in terms of play. He was really good in coverage, I thought. They only had one pass deflection, but like I thought that right side of the field was pretty locked down. It was actually more often than not, a lot of the bigger plays were on the left side of the field for Clinton Dix, because Clinton Dix, as good as he was, did have a few moments where he missed tackles. Vinny Curry had an excellent season as a pass rusher. We've had him pretty much in exclusively on nickel packages, and he played a little bit more than I expected him to, just because we were in that nickel package so much, and because he really outperformed expectations. I expected him to get 5.5, 6, 7 sacks. He had 8.5 sacks. And if you take a look at that's the wrong thing. If you look at the season stats, it was really just bursts of a couple games where he had 2 sacks, sack and a half, sack. So over half the games he played, he didn't really have a sack, but he was still really good. Well, a lot of those were games we simmed too. So most of these games that we played, he was very productive. So I'm really, really happy with that. That was a great contract signing. With the little bit of cap space we had left this offseason. Russell Newkirk, great rookie season for being only a part-time player. I'm interested to see what he can be going forward. Although he is already 24 and has slow development. He's pretty much probably just going to be a pass rusher, honestly. Maybe he could play. He'd probably play against the run too. But we'll see his role going forward. Malcolm Smith. Malcolm Smith is going to get a little bit of playing time in these playoffs because he's pretty good in zone coverage, 76 and 84 speed. So we'll see if he can play well in the playoffs. Andre Hal, and he'll be going back and forth with Kevin Pierre-Louis in that spot. And then these kinds of guys are just depth. Andre Hal played in our dime package. We run once in a while a dime package cover. No, not cover 4. Excuse me, man-to-man with 4 corners. And he had a pick in that game against Denver. So. And then guys down here. Amon Middleton didn't play as much as I would have liked him to, but Vinny Curry playing really well, I think, kind of eliminated the need for us to play Amon Middleton. But he might have a role with us next year if we don't retain Vinny Curry, or if we decide to, inject a little bit of youth. He's 23, so we don't want to wait. We don't really screw around. We want to get him on the field a little bit more. We have a lot of great younger-ish defensive linemen, but they're all kind of on the older end. Like Amon Middleton's 23. Bernard's going to be 26 next season. Newkirk's going to be 25. Also, Amon Middleton will be 24. So those guys that should be just getting into the prime of their careers. Amon Middleton definitely a pass rusher though. That dominant 89 power move, but he has a 74 finesse move as well. But not the greatest against the run. Only 78 tackle, 81 block shedding. Definitely an edge guy. Definitely not a guy you can play inside. And Louis Brinkley, I think, was the only player not to see the field this year. Well, sorry, he played 1 down all year. Probably actually should have been on our practice squad, and he's coming along nicely. We drafted him as his own corner, who we could potentially develop into something a little bit more, and he might be one of the guys who's in the running to take over for Casey Hayward and Jonathan Joseph next season. He might be a guy that we give an extended look to. Could be pretty good. All right, kicking. And this is an interesting one. So Greg Zuerlein played really well for the first half of the year, and then really struggled down the stretch. He had several kicks blocked. He had 2 kicks blocked. He had an extra point blocked in the last game that we just played. Not really a great year out of him, and I think it's honestly going to be time to move on. We paid him a bunch of money a few years ago because we really needed a kicker, and he was one of the best ones out on the market. And I don't think we're going to make that kind of commitment to a kicker again. I don't really want to pay him. Well, it says he only made $2.79, but a lot of that was because he had a bonus too. So Gonna probably try to go younger. Kirby Pritchett in his first year as the punter, or as a punter in general, not even in punting. He averaged 46.3 yards per punt, which is definitively better than Drew Kaiser. Still probably not very good. We'll see where it is in terms of overall in the league, and it's actually pretty high. Kirby Pritchett, yeah, 46.3. Well, it's not necessarily that it's high, but it's a half a yard less than most of these punters that are like toward the top, other than Tress Way and Johnny Hecker. Like, I know Johnny Hecker's foot's got to be a 97 kick power. So, yeah. Pritchett definitely had a great year. Definitely looking to look to re-sign him in the offseason. Then kick returns for, go back to the Chargers really quick. You can see Roosevelt Eugene's year, and I've been saying Roosevelt Eugene's an undrafted free agent this entire series ever since we signed him, and he has a lot of progression. I'll show you in a second. But I was looking through his profile earlier, and he was actually drafted in the 4th round in 2017. So the first draft, obviously, because I picked him up in the first offseason, and he was waived during preseason. So interesting thing, I never knew. But he's a guy who should probably get a look at wide receiver next year with the likely release of Travis Benjamin, at least to be the number 3-ish or 4th receiver on the depth chart. Really good ratings now that he's been progressed up to 81 overall, and that he was a really good kick returner. Him and Craig Brink were really, well, Craig Brink less so, but Roosevelt Eugene was a Pro Bowl returner. He was an amazing punt returner, too. He had 15.3 yards per return and 2 touchdowns. And if you take a look at where that ranks in the league, he is clearly the first among people who have actually returned punts. Because Patrick Peterson's second, and he's returned 48 punts and averaged 10.4 yards per return. Roosevelt Eugene's returned 47 and averaged 15. That's just the whole level above that he was on this year, and really ever since that playoff game, he's just been an incredible returner. So let's look at around the league. Philip Rivers ends up leading the league in passing yards. Him and Jason Watt were tied going into the last game of the season, but Jason Watt actually didn't play the last game of the season. He dislocated his hip in the second last game of the season. Look at these numbers, man. This guy is ridiculous. And the Patriots just keep lucking into these really good quarterbacks, but Brent Vollers hasn't had his time yet. We'll see if Jason Watt ends up being the best quarterback out of that class. So you just take a look at some of the guys who were tops among passing yards. Passing touchdowns, Philip Rivers tied with Russell Wilson for number 1. Most picks. Evan Bridge had 21. Maybe not the greatest second season of his career. And, was it already giving people an extra year? That's interesting. I wonder if it's aged everybody then. Well, hold on. Let's see if we can find a guy quickly. Why isn't it giving these guys extra years then? That's what I'm wondering. Because this is Evan Bridges' second year in the league? Yeah, it is. Okay, never mind. I was wrong. I don't know what I was thinking, but completion percentage among people who actually played. Philip Rivers number 1. Ben Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson are both at 70% as well. Yards per game was definitely Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger got hurt, as I've said a couple times, and if he had played the full season, he probably would have been the best quarterback in the league. He had, I think, a higher passer rating. The same probably goes for Aaron Rodgers. He had a lot of picks. And leader in passer rating, yeah, Ben Roethlisberger, not a surprise right there. Andy Dalton actually had a higher passer rating than Philip Rivers this season. And it's weird. He had a lot of yards per attempt. And what's his throwing power at? 90. That's a little high. All right. He's already 30 years old, too. It's crazy how time flies. We're not going to be anywhere in rushing. Devontae Adams finishes third in catching. Look at this ridiculousness. The top 3 receivers in terms of catching were all on the same team at one point. That's insane. All right. Yardage-wise, Devontae Adams finishes 4th in the entire league in receiving yardage, despite being a number 2 receiver for the majority of the season. And I actually think that, well, he's not very high, actually. I didn't realize he would be this low. Well, let's just look at yards per game. We can see how many do you have? 831. Yeah, I thought he had more, but I guess he did only play. That average would still be over 100 if he had played the full last game that he played too. But leads the league in receiving yardage per game, yards per catch. Tajay Sharp had 17. That's pretty good. Lincoln Burton had 16, so that's pretty good too. Rob Gronkowski leads the league in receiving touchdowns. Des Bryant second. Keenan Allen, Rashard Matthews, Allen Robinson, Shedrick Darman. Is he any good? Man, not bad. Could be pretty good. Devontae Adams all tied for third. Blocking. Who allowed the most sacks? King Dunlap allowed 30 sacks this season. His pass blocking is down to a 72 from his confidence. Definitely got rid of him at the right time, and we'll say that much. MacLeod allowed 28. He only has a 73 pass block, so it's understandable. TJ Hand, I don't think playing against Melvin Ingram helped out that total all that much either. Matt Cannon. Wow, he actually looks like a good player too. I'm surprised he gave up 24 sacks. Ronnie Stanley gave up 24 sacks. He doesn't have the greatest strength, so it's understandable. Well, I guess that doesn't account into the simulation, though, does it? And we didn't play those games. Well, we got rid of Joe Barksdale at the right time, too. Joe Barksdale and... I want to see how many sacks Joe Barksdale gave up last season. But Joe Barksdale and King Dunlap, former Chargers, not having great years. He gave up 9 last year. Definitely... I think we definitely won that trade. Who did we get with that pick? I'm interested to I would be interested to know who we got with that pick. A lot of people did not allow a single sack this year, too. Which is how you know these sack numbers are a little wonky. Because there's never been this many players to not give up a sack in a season. So, blocking, we already looked at. Tackling, and Denzel Perryman's actually 5th in the league in tackles. Interesting. Number 1 in tackles for a loss is Derek Wolfe. Dominican Sue, Darren Donald, Leonard Williams, who we almost traded for, had an amazing year. Really nice to see. Joey Bosa finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9th in tackles for a loss. And the sacks leader, J.J. Watt, is number 1, and Joey Bosa is number 2, a sack behind him. Olivier Vernon at 19 as well. Robert Quinn, Aaron Donald, yeah, that Rams defensive front is monstrous. Coney Ely with 16 sacks this season. What's he been doing in this? 98 power moves. Yeah, he's had excellent seasons in this franchise. At least 2 excellent seasons. That season was still really good. He probably didn't play the full season. I'm too lazy to look right now. So sacks. I just want to see who led in interceptions. Delvin Breaux, Eric Rowe. Not a big year for interceptions. Miles Jack had 6, apparently. Oh, we should look at sacks among linebackers, too. That's what I'm interested to see. Like middle linebackers. It's going to show any of them. Jamie Collins had 5. Looks like that's the top. Yeah, CJ Mosley had 4.5, so. Alright. Interceptions, I already went over. What's like a forced fumble? It's not something I looked at for my own team, but not a lot around the league. A lot of guys with 3. Alright, kicking-wise, Greg Zuerlein led the league in field goals. Man, this is like the worst field goal kicking season in the history of time. The leading field goal kicker only made 25 field goals. And this is probably the most attempted as well, 31. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, honestly. Percentage. Connor Barth made 93. Dan Bailey made 90. Caleb Sturgis made 90. Hopkins 88. Hazelton made 84. Not a great year. This is a terrible year for kicking, honestly. Our extra points made. Stephen Hauschka. He's kicked 60 times. Scored more touchdowns than ever. And Greg Zuerlein had the lowest extra point percent. He missed 6 extra points this season. I know I kick a lot of field goals and I missed like a couple, but he missed 6 extra points this year. Definitely might be time to move on. Alright, punting. I think we already looked at this pretty much, but just take a look again at the leaders really quick. So let's see, where did Kaiser finish? Yeah, Kaiser was like 6th on the bottom. I don't know why Kaiser's so bad. He has 95 kick power and 97 accuracy. I don't understand why his punting is so terrible. And then kick return, we already went over pretty much. Rosal Eugene's like 7th in that. Who scored the most kick return touchdowns? That was only 2. I imagine it's the same for punt returns. Yeah, although a lot more people have one than kick returns. Alright, that does it for that. We're going to run through the awards really quick. I know I said I was going to keep this quick, but it's been 30 minutes already. We're going to run through awards really quick because we're probably going to have quite a few. And we'll do the Pro Bowl. I'll try to remember to do the Pro Bowl after we're done with the playoffs too, because it doesn't show all that stuff. But Russell Wilson robs Phillip Rivers of the MVP. I don't know how they voted for this. I think Phillip Rivers clearly had the better season. When you look at all the statistics, he led both. He was better than Russell Wilson in every single category in terms of passing, and his team had a better record, honestly. And Jason Watt, well-deserved 3rd place MVP finished. Andy Dalton, Drew Brees had a great year. Ben Roethlisberger, if he hadn't gotten hurt, I'd guarantee Ben Roethlisberger win the MVP. Although Le'Veon Bell had a really good year as well. Coach of the Year does go to Antonio Gates. I don't really think he deserved it for this year. If you've given him the award last year, I definitely understand. But most of the time, Coach of the Year just goes to the team with the best record anyway. So, Jason Brook apparently is the coach of the Seahawks now. Other than that, pretty much all the same coaches. Not a lot of firings and stuff going on. Like 8 of the 10 best coaches are the current coaches of the team in real life. So, well, I guess Gus Bradley's not the current coach, but at the time of the start of this franchise, he was the current coach. Let's take a look at the NFC first. Russell Wilson wins Offensive Player of the Year. Jeremy Hill is 2nd. He had a great year with the Eagles. Goff is 3rd. Aaron Rodgers, despite being 4-12, is in 4th place. Copeland, pretty good young quarterback. Ezekiel Elliott, Cam Newton, Carlos Hyde, Jameis Winston, Eli Manning. Defensive Player of the Year was Cam Jordan, Sean Lee, Olivier Vernon. Somehow finished 3rd, even though he had almost 20 sacks. It's ridiculous. Levy, Kendricks, Deion Buchanan, Aaron Donald, Robert Quinn, Marcus Lawrence, and Ezekiel Ansah. Offensive Rookie of the Year was Stephen Copeland, pretty well. Jeffrey Kirby had a pretty good year too. I don't remember how DeMar Meyer did. Charles Roper was pretty good. We played against him. We didn't play in a gameplay episode, but we still simmed against him. Brandon scored a touchdown against us. Dylan Hoffman-Ellis is a guy I almost thought about drafting last season, but we didn't need another receiver. Defensive Rookie of the Year was corner DJ Sayers, Bael Tracy. We played against him. He played pretty well. Bronson Kinchin. We played against the Cowboys last year, so we didn't see Kinchin this year. Malal Presley, Rashad Denton, Deion Gilraith, Marquise Parson, DeAndre Kaysen, Eugene Mooney, and Mike Irving. Best QB was Russell Wilson. Best running back was Jeremy Hill. Best wide receiver was Des Bryant, followed by Lincoln Britton. Tyrone Smith, Zach Martin, Travis Frederick, and Lyle Collins were the 4 best offensive linemen. Teron Armstead, Trey Turner, Weston Richburg, Lane Johnson, Andrew Norwell, and Mike Iupati. Best defensive lineman. Despite winning Defensive Player of the Year, Cameron Jordan's not the best defensive lineman. Aaron Donald, Robert Quinn, all these guys. Yannick Ngakoue made it too. Best linebacker was DeAndre Levy, followed by Pernell McPhee and Michael Kendricks. Very nice. Sam Barrington makes the list. Quan Alexander as well. Paul Warlow is also on the list. Delvin Breaux is your best defensive back, followed by Eric Rowe, Patrick Peterson, Malcolm Jenkins too on this list. The Eagles have a pretty good team. It's nice they made the playoffs. I'm kind of happy for them. Will Hill makes this list as well. Best kicker, Dan Bailey, followed by Connor Barth, Caleb Sturgis. This doesn't really matter all that much. And there's no best punter. Why is there no best punter? I want to know. I'm getting texts. Alright, we're going to wrap this up. Chargers side of the ball. Phillip Rivers won Offensive Player of the Year. Jason Watt 2nd. Andy Dalton, Drew Brees. Le'Veon Bell, Blake Bortles, Ben Roethlisberger. A lot of quarterbacks on here. Defensive Player of the Year goes to Joey Bosa. And J.J. Watt's 6th on this list, despite, I think, tying the sack record. I don't know if it's the record anymore, but Melvin Ingram's also on this list. Melvin Ingram's just behind J.J. Watt, excuse me. It's confusing to have these two both in the league. So, Avery Williamson makes the list as well. Joey Bosa, probably not a deserved defensive MVP. I think J.J. Watt probably had a better season, but Denzel Perryman finished 4th on this list too. Denzel Perryman was amazing this season, apparently. Like, I thought he was really good when we played with him, but he was just, like, an amazing year according to this game. Offensive Rookie of the Year goes to A.J. McCarthy. I don't even know who that is. Brandon Seymour was a receiver. Dylan Hunt also. I have no idea who, like, half these people are. And I went through this draft. Must not have been a very good draft. Drummond Greenberry, I believe, is the defensive end or outside linebacker. Will Marincola finished second in the best or defensive rookie of the year voting. He was a guy we moved up to get DeAndre McKee, and this guy went one pick before him, and he was a corner that we also thought about moving up for. So, and there were a lot of good corners in this draft. I was thinking long and hard about drafting a corner, but we ended up going with DeAndre McKee just because I thought he was a better player than any of these corners who were available. And I was right. I think DeAndre McKee probably should have won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Ninth place finish is a little ridiculous, I think. But he definitely didn't have the interceptions that would be expected of a defensive back. So, Eric Smith, Marquise Cooley, Crosby Vaughn, Phil Yaw, Marcus Womack's another guy, another corner. A lot of good defensive rookies this year. Best QB, Phillip Rivers. Jason Watt's not second in the best QB, apparently. You're number 2 on Offensive Player of the Year, but you're not the second best QB. Behind the QB that won it. Le'Veon Bell wins best running back. Not surprised at any of those names. Best wide receiver goes to Allen Robinson over Devontae Adams. Interesting. And Brandon Seymour finishes on here too. Antonio Brown and Brandon Seymour both up there. Although Keenan Allen probably would have been number 1 on this list if he played the entire year and sustained the rate at which he was racking up stats in the first half. So you thought NFC best offensive line voting was ridiculous. Look at this Chargers team. Parker Donahue, Josh Shitton, Deshaun Snell, Matt Slauson, and Eric Lair are 5 of the top 6. And I actually thought Eric Lair played significantly better than Matt Slauson. I don't even think Matt Slauson belongs on this list, but I don't think this takes stuff like that into account. Kevin Zeitler, Joe Thomas finished 4th. Shaq Mason, Marquise Pouncey, and Jack Mewhort. Best defensive lineman, J.J. Watt. The defensive player of the year was the 2nd best defensive lineman this year. Chargers finish with the best or 4th best defensive lineman as well, and Melvin Ingram. Jihad Ward went down a little bit. He's had excellent years too. Kamario Edwards, that Raiders offensive line or defensive line is great. Then the Jets duo right here, Carlos Dunlap runs it out. Best linebacker, you got Junior Gillette finishing in 2nd. And how does this work? These are all outside linebackers except for Miles Jack. I think they really need to redo these awards, honestly. Because all of these guys are just edge rushers except for C.J. Mosley. I don't know how... Let me look at that really quick. So how did Denzel Perryman and Jamie Collins, for that matter, finish 3rd and 4th in Defensive Player of the Year, and Ryan Shazier? But C.J. Mosley finished 8th, and he is like the 5th best linebacker. How does that work? Well, he's the 8th best linebacker, but still. Avery Williamson's on here too. Well, Jamie Collins, I don't have any idea. Best defensive back, Vontae Davis, E.J. Gaines, Jimmy Smith, Mike Mitchell, Quan Williams, apparently on the Jets, Sean Smith, Stephen Gilmore, Morin Kalla. He must play pretty well, actually. William Jackson III. Best kicker was Travis Coons. Greg Zuerlein is 2nd. So, yeah, that's going to do it. My quick recap that lasted 40 minutes is now over. We'll take a look at the playoff matchups. Head on the way out. Even though I already showed them to you guys in the standings, we'll just look at these games. So, that's going to do it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for more Chargers franchise. Next episode, we will be getting on to the divisional round, where we will be playing, most likely, the winner of the Raiders-Jaguars games. See you next time.